Hey guys, welcome back to another vlog. And if you're new here, welcome in. I'm TwistedFae, a traditional and digital artist who loves crafting dark, sultry fantasy pieces with just a hint of the eerie. I hope you're all staying safe out there. Like legit, between Mother Nature and the general chaos of the world we live in lately, things have been a little bit more than just topsy-turvy, you know? Anywho, today I kind of just want to ramble a bit about life, art, and how sometimes you really have to just roll with it. Like plans fall through, timelines shift, and honestly, that's okay. What matters really is giving yourself room to adapt and maybe keeping a backup plan or two tucked away, just in cases. So, will I take you behind the scenes of some ideas that didn't quite make it into my first collection launch? I also wanted to talk about something I think a lot of artists struggle with: setting boundaries, especially when it comes to contracts, whether you're working with clients, friends, or even family. And speaking of that, I've got a mural story for you. My first ever, actually. And oh boy, it ties right into this topic. And I think I'll end this vlog by wrapping things up with a little chat about why I prefer to make all my merch in-house right here in my studio. So yeah, grab a drink and maybe something to snack on and get settled in. And then we can dive into some real talk. So, I know I talked a little bit about my collection in the last vlog, mostly about the concept and some of the visual elements that went into it. But honestly, there's so much more that happened behind the scenes that people usually don't get to see, you know? And for me, it starts with some kind of pull, you know? Like, you get drawn to an idea or a theme so strongly that it just doesn't leave you alone. And I don't know how to properly explain it. But it's not just inspiration. It's like a weird mix of longing and urgency. Like you need to do something, like you need to make something. And then comes the messy part. Brainstorming, writing stuff down, doodling all over the place, making little thumbnails, figuring out the mood and the color palette that you're going for, and slowly piecing it together until it starts to feel right. And sometimes you start building out the collection itself, like the description, the titles, the story behind each piece, and how they all interconnect. Like which one opens the whole story and which one ends it, and what's the journey in between? It's wild, honestly. A whole collection ends up feeling like this super personal, curation of your own thoughts, your memories, your emotions, almost like your entire life in some way or some form, that every piece means something. You know, something I don't really talk about enough is just how much mental stitching goes into building a collection. Yeah, there's the art itself, but the way everything flows together, that's where the real work begins. My current collection mix both past and current new works, at least until everything sells out. But even then, each piece has to fit. It has to belong within the story I'm trying to tell and the realm I'm building. The atmosphere has to be right, and the energy has to match. I curate everything based on that theme, that emotion, that emotional frequency that I'm searching or chasing. And over time, things slowly start to fall in place. I like to start soft, with something sweet, light, like visual cotton candy for the eyes to greedily feast on, a dream to lure you in and make you want more. But the deeper you go, the darker it gets. The sweetness starts to rot and the beauty starts to unravel. Until what you're left with is something more feral, more raw, like a quiet unraveling that turns into an open invitation to the void. It's almost like composing a visual playlist. Each piece has its own beat, its own rhythm, its own energy. Some pieces hum quietly, while others scream, but they all need to sing together. And titles are a whole process on their own, okay? Sometimes one will hit me mid brushstroke, literally, clear as day, And other times I'll let a finished piece sit and I'll live with it for a few weeks, just waiting for the right name to finally make itself known. And when it does, the title isn't just a label, it's a thread that ties the piece into a larger story that I'm telling. Everything is connected, literally, not just on the canvas, but across the entire collection. And then comes in that curation process that I talked a little bit about, like asking, does this piece belong here? Or is it living in another collection's world entirely, Like there's always that one outlier, that one that I really adore, but it doesn't quite fit. And sadly, I have to set it aside. Like, next time, love, next time, And who knows, maybe I'll build a collection out of that entire piece, or around it. Anywho, there were 3 paintings I really wanted to include into this flagship collection of mine. Kind of a way to push myself out and finally get back out there again. And one of them just honestly needed a quick touch-up, nothing too wild. And it's actually the second painting I made in my advanced oil painting class. The assignment for that one was to work on a canvas that it was at least 60 inches in either length or width, if not more. So, yeah, massive mural size. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of messed it up originally. So I got a little too happy with one of my glaze layers, and it ended up pushing the wooden elements way too far in the background. Like, it basically disappeared when you were looking at it head on, unless you were viewing it from the side, which, okay, side tangent really quick, but that actually really turned into a cool technique that I would totally use again in other paintings. It's just not for this one, That's not what I was going for. Anywho, I meant to revisit it last summer, but I didn't get around to it until this year. And honestly, I'm kind of glad I waited. I'm way happier with how it turned out now than I think I would have been if I'd rushed it back then. And the second piece I wanted to do was actually a tribute, kind of, to a digital painting that I did back in May of 2021. My skills have grown since then, a lot. They've really leveled up, and I've refined them in a lot of ways that the things that I want to do now, I couldn't have pulled off back then. So I really want to bring it to life in a traditional manner this time around. But yeah, I got all the way up to the 3rd layer before I had to put that project on hold. And at the time, I thought it would be a short break.
Guys, Labrie agreed to giving me cool rips for the show. I love Labrie.
But yeah, that pause kind of stretched out way longer than I expected, and it ended up being the last point I touched on all of my oil paintings for that entire collection. And the 3rd piece I had planned, yeah, that one's still just an idea. It's still living rent-free in my head, floating around don't forget about me. So one day that one will come to the light on canvas. But hey, on the bright side, I did manage to finish and frame 2 mixed media pieces for the collection. So there's that. That was my backup plan. That's why you always need a backup plan. And all those other mermaid concepts I had planned will just have to wait their turn. So I'll save them for my next summer collection. And yeah. So you guys must be asking what the fuck took me off course, right? And that, my dear, would be the mural that I made for my mother. So yeah, folks, buckle in. This one's gonna be a fun ride. So this is the original sketch that I had for the mural. And this happened back in summer of 2024. It's literally just a super rough gist of the layout and like the basic flat colors of the palette that I want to get the vibe across, you know? And back in the summer, my mom had reached out asking if I could paint a mural for her at some point. And honestly, I should have known from the start that if the sketching phase was literally already a bitch and a half, then the rest of this process for this mural wouldn't get any fucking easier. We went back and forth for fucking hours, tweaking little things here and there, and like trying to figure out the placement of things because the original vision she had, she wasn't liking it. And it wasn't flowing cohesively. And eventually we finally landed on this. So basically what she wanted was a sunset background with mountain scenery, saguaros, like a bunch of desert grasses and bushes, and like a woodpecker holding a snake in its beak. Like legit classic Arizona desert vibes, okay? And then we got to talking, and like, I know she's, you know, I knew her financial situation, and personally, I was willing to grab the paint, but I said if she wanted to grab the paint, like if she wanted to pay for something, grab the fucking paint for me and maybe a few other extra items that, you know, I'll go with her to pick out the stuff that we need. But I already had my brushes. So yeah, I figured why not? I want the experience. Literally, I've always wanted to do a fucking mural. And doing it on, so the surface that she wanted me to do it was on metal, which is fine. I've painted metal before. But the texture, the surface of the metal was corrugated. So that was going to be my challenge. And that one is the hardest surface you can really paint on because it's so fucking uneven. Like stucco, there's ways to get around on that to get shit like nice and crisp, you know, but you're not dealing with stucco. So yeah, it was basically the hardest surface that I could do it on. And if I could do that, I could do any fucking surface, you know, paint on any surface. That was my thinking. That was my logic. So yeah. Anywho, so fast forward a whole year. This summer, you know, end of May, beginning of June, she finally brings it up again. She's ready for me to go and do the mural. And I'm thinking, okay, cool. I'll treat it like a studio work day, you know? I'll start around my usual time and keep going until the light starts to fade. Which, if that's the case, if that's what I'm allotted to do, that should take me about a week tops. So that's the time estimate I quoted her because she wanted to know how long it would take me. And I was thinking regular work studio day. So like, let's go. Anywho, spoiler alert, it did not take a week. So I guess, where do we start? Let's start from the top, okay? So we've got the sketch already planned out from a year ago. So I've got it on hand, downloaded to my phone. It's chilling in my gallery, ready to go. My mom is looking at it and she's going, yeah, I changed my mind. I just want the mariachi girl, like do her in the Dia de Muertos style. And I want her right here on the door. And as, you know, we go on, you know, she says later, as I start to paint the background color of the sky, that she doesn't want a background. She just wants her. And then she starts saying stuff like, don't worry about the black part of her dress because the wall's already primed black anyways. And I'm just sitting there like, like, okay, whatever. I'm not even working on the figure right now. I just needed the general placement, whatever. I'll come back to her in a bit. But anywho, and I guess for me, the kicker on this first day was like, to her, the entire sketch, I guess, was just supposed to be used as inspiration, like just a vibe. You know, it wasn't the actual plan that we had planned out or like layout that we need to follow. Okay, so cool, I guess. And then she tells me, along with this, that I should also be coming around 5 or 6 p.m. to work on it. Because, you know, it's already 100 plus degrees outside during the day. So, like, yeah, I know I'm working in summer heat, but now you want me at the worst time of it when it picks up the hottest. And where I've only got a couple of usable fucking hours of light in the evening. And that was just the first day. From there on out, I swear, if it was not every day, it felt like every other day or every other 2 days. Like literally like clockwork, she'd throw in a new quote unquote opinion. I don't know. I wouldn't call that an opinion, but anywho, so like third day in, right? And out of nowhere, she drops this gem that, you know, I'd be moving a lot faster if we just bought the exact colors that I needed instead of using my usual palette. Like, why are you wasting your time mixing paint? Like, oh boy. So I've been using the same palette across all of mediums, acrylics, oils, inks, you name it. It's literally how I work. And now all of a sudden it's the reason why I'm moving hella slow and won't finish the mural in a week. And mind you, I'm already working with limited daylight. And now she wants me to overhaul my entire painting process mid-project. So like, cool, whatever, you know? And to boot, we're the third way in. I'm starting on the mid-ground of this background. And now she wants a background behind the figure. Fun times. Anyways, more days pass, and with them come more passive-aggressive comments about how long it's taking me to finish. And at one point, you know, she goes, in the real world, a professional muralist would have had this done in 3 days max. By now, we're into the second week. And yeah, I also started showing up around noon to 2 p.m. And yeah, it was during 100 and some plus odd, you know, degree heat. And I don't care. I'm Mexican. Like, legit, I was born and raised here in Arizona. I know how to handle the heat. I know how to stay safe, stay hydrated, take breaks when I need to, and so on and so forth. And fucking call it a day if I need to. Like, anyway, we did get into an argument about this right before week 2 started, but she did eventually back off. Like, I do know my limits. I know my body. I worked plenty of outdoor markets, from setting up my booths during peak heat hours, during First Fridays, and at art fairs, like all of that shit. Like, I do it solo sometimes. And this mural literally was no different. It's still work, you know? Like, but it's not as excruciating as setting up a tent all by myself and getting everything unpacked and unloaded from my car. This is just mixing paint and painting, you know? But anywho, so yeah, and to boot, she also kept pointing out that it's only getting hotter as the month goes on. And to me, that's like, yeah, exactly. So like, let me handle this the way that I need to so I can get it done before this heat gets any fucking worse. Because like, once we hit 110 like temperatures and over, we're gonna have issues at that point, because then I can't handle it. Like, nobody can handle that shit for very long periods of time, okay? And let's be honest, I've already got my own projects and deadlines that were breathing down my neck. And I stopped midway because she was finally fucking ready. No heads up, no nothing. Like, I'm ready, let's go now. I need you to start now, kind of thing. And I know my mom, and that's not worth arguing with her about when to start, because she did interrupt me. So, yeah, I know how to manage my own workflow, you know, just fine for myself. So I didn't need anybody breathing down my fucking neck. It's just, I don't know. And legit, I guess when we're coming to the end, like when we were just about nearing the finish line, like literally a few days before I was ready to wrap this entire thing up, she hit me with another change. And like, before I started adding in the midtones and the highlights for the cacti for the foliage, she goes, actually, can you add in some coyotes? Like, the head turn I did, the double take I did, like, what? You know? Like, we are at the very end. And I'm already neck deep in layering and final detailing, and now you want some fucking coyotes.
This is amazing, facing that way, but when you look to the town, it's not so amazing.
It's weird how birth and death are tied together. How creation and destruction go hand in hand.
I mean, we have all accept.
And like, at one point I was just like, okay, sure, why not? Let's just fucking throw in the entire fucking wildlife of Arizona while we're at it. Like, why don't we? You know? I mean, you'll see the footage later, and like, legit, she was so fucking salty. And honestly, she still fucking is. But you know what? I'm still sick with that. Like, that's legit the entire reason that we made the original sketch together. To sort all this shit out ahead of fucking time. To avoid this exact fucking situation, you know? But nar, of course not. That would have been too fucking easy for her, right? Anyways, so like either the third to last, if not the second to last day, I legit finally sat her ass down and was like, okay, we need to talk. We legit need to clear some shit up. First off, that sketch we made together, it wasn't just a gist for a loose idea that could be changed on a whim. I am treating this like I do my business. This was a commission, even if you didn't pay for it originally. Okay? Like, I accepted this job like a commission. That sketch was legit the foundation of this entire fucking painting. This is what I was supposed to be doodling. The only thing I was supposed to be refining were the fucking shading colors. That was it. And I'm like, and for how long we sat going over the concept of this sketch? Like, if this had been a paying job, all of the revisions you had me do because you wanted to try something here, there, over there. No, can we put it over here instead? You know, I personally only allow 2 corrections during the sketch phase, unless I mess something up myself or have a misunderstanding over, and another 2 during the flat color stage. You know, that's it. I'm like, second. Yeah. Mixing the paint takes time. Like, don't you think that I already know that buying the colors that I used instead would have been a lot easier, a lot faster for me to just wham bam, thank you, ma'am? But let's be honest. You were complaining about spending $250 on the 11 jars of paint that we got. And those 11 jars gave us all the gradients in the sky, the clouds, the different tones in the mountains, the foliage, the animals, and the main figure herself. Altogether, I have well over 20 distinct colors. I saved you money. And lucky for you, I actually enjoy mixing paint. It's cathartic for me. Like legit. It helps me understand how colors interact with each other and what their limitations are. At what point do I start getting fucking mud? How far can I push the colors and its boundaries, you know? And I mixed these same colors over and over and over to the point that I had every combination down to an exact recipe, like fucking clockwork. Third, you said a professional muralist would have had this finished in 3 days. I don't know where you pulled that estimate from. But unless you're talking about a basic logo or some basic geometric shapes with a very limited color palette, you're wrong. This is a painterly mural. These type of murals take pros weeks to months to finish, and that's with a team. And they're usually allowed to work in peace on their own schedule with proper lighting setups. I mean, shit, some even have spotlights to work throughout the night until they get tired. Me? I didn't have any of that. And I still managed to finish this solo in 2 weeks. With the weather, with interruptions, and being limited to how many, what hours I could paint during that first week until I got tired. Like, the fuck, And then to boot, at one point, they said that this would be a cheap mural and stuff, $300 to $500. Let me be real clear for a quick second. Like, if anyone else had asked for a mural like this, the high end is around 25,000 plus, if not more, like legit, easily. And the low end would have been around 5,000. So, even with that, this wasn't cheap. Legit, the work that I put in, not even close to the $300 to $500 she was guesstimating. Like, think about it. Not only am I working within certain constrictions and stuff like that, and then with a limited budget and everything, but all the work that I put in, Like, the amount of time that I spent honing my skills, getting into galleries, and building up my own body of work, like legit. My rates land on the higher end of that spectrum. A mural like this, hand-painted, no shortcuts, no projector, no spray paint, no grid, no large-scale coverage tools, done entirely by me. That's easily a $15,000 to $20,000 job, period, for me, with my skill set, because I still have a lot to learn still. Like, every inch of that wall was fucking hand painted by me. The detail work, the gradients, the layering, like all of that shit was fucking manual, you know? And honestly, I wouldn't even call the stuff that she said fucking opinions. They were fucking assumptions. Not once did she stop to think about how those assumptions were slowing things down and not helping me at all. Like, literally, she said on day one that I'm not artistically inclined like you, so you'd know better than me. This is your world, not mine. Okay, so then, like, if that's the case, why the fuck were you bogging me down with constant corrections and, like, second guesses all the time? Like, if you trust my skills and you say that I know more, then why the fuck don't you let me do the thing, man? Which actually brings us to what I really wanted to talk about in this vlog. Terms of service, refunds, and contracts. No matter who the client is, whether it's a corporation, a small business, an individual, or even family members, you need to have boundaries clearly written out, full stop. Because as much as we want to believe that good intentions and mutual respect are enough, they're not. And this mural experience, it drove that lesson all the way home. That's honestly where I think a lot of artists mess up. Not having a terms of service, a refund policy, or any kind of contract in place. And I get it. Most of us, unless we're lawyers or super into business stuff, hate dealing with legalities, especially legalese, that formal legal talk, you know? It smooths some people's brains right out. It's like, nope, too many words, don't wanna. And I get it. But here's the thing, it's important to. Even if you don't have everything perfect from the start, just begin somewhere. Start feeling around. In all honesty, my tip is just get out there. Check out some of your favorite artists, you know, especially the ones that are running their art like a business, whether they have a shop or they're giving, you know, doing commissions or contracts. Go to their websites, see if they got a terms of service, a refund section, or a contract policy listed somewhere, and use those sites as a reference point. Like, take inspiration from their different policies, from all of them, you know, and start drafting something that works for you. Like, what kind of boundaries do you want in place? What kind of protections do you need for yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally? And these things, when you write them out, you don't have to make them sound scary or fancy. They just have to fucking exist somewhere, listed out. Begin with what you will and won't draw. That's how I started too. And honestly, I still use that same structure on my website today. My will-do list includes things like original characters, D&D and Pathfinder characters or NPCs, SFW, pinup, and NSFW work, along with fan art from select fandoms, Nekomimis, furry, or anthro characters, and general fantasy content. My won't do list has actually gotten shorter over the years, but it still includes things like mecha or heavily robotic characters, photorealism, and art styles that don't align with my own. If someone asks for something that isn't listed, I make it clear that they can always reach out as well, either through a listed social platform or directly to my email. I also include an estimated turnaround time in that section, just so people have a clear idea of what to expect before they even reach out over that. And during that time, while I was setting that up, I slowly started to build my own TOS. And I've pretty much broken it down into clear sections now. So this is more or less how I structure mine. So I have the general terms in the first section, which is talking about things that, you know, like normal, like in infomercials or like in store or whatever that, or on a receipt, that prices are subject to change based on demand, etc. And that I reserve the right to decline any request at my own discretion. I also have a section for payment which explains what processors I accept, the kind of payment plans I'm open to. And I also list on there that work doesn't begin until the first payment is received, and all final files or physical work don't go out and get delivered until the full payment has been cleared. And then I also have a section for my process and delivery. And in this section, it goes over my estimated turnaround times again, and what deliverables are included in my digital commissions and how traditional works are handled. For traditional pieces, I ship final work directly to the client, so my postage is actually included in the commission price, so it's not separate. And then I have another section that's references, revisions like clearly and plainly. And it states that clients get 2 rounds of revisions, one during the sketch phase and one during the flat coloring stage. Any edits outside of those windows or additional changes beyond what's agreed on comes with an extra charge. So unless I'm the one who messed up, then in that case, then it's on me because I made that error, not them. It's not a last minute change. And then in another segment, I also talk about my cancellation and refunds. And this is actually a really big, important one that you really should look into, and all that good jazz. So for me, everyone has a different refund kind of like structure. Some people do refunds, some people don't. I don't sit well with not giving something back, especially if the work hasn't been completed. But basically, I don't have this structure listed, but this is my structure. So then you can start thinking about what aligns with you, or you can tweak it yourself, So for me personally, if I haven't started the piece, then yeah, it's 100% refundable. If I've started sketching, well, that's about a quarter of my process. So I'm going to keep 25% and the client will get 75% back because I already put time and effort into it. However, if I've started on the line work or getting to the flat stage, then I'm halfway done already. So I'll keep 50 and the client will get 50% back. And then if I'm already starting on the rendering and they stop mid-render, then the refund drops to 25% for them and I get to keep the remaining 75% because I've already gone almost a full third into this, And then if the piece is fully finished, there are no refunds, period. And I also include in there that if there are any chargebacks without prior communication with me, then they're getting blacklisted permanently. They're not, no, I don't fuck around with somebody's money, So yeah. And that's on both parts too. So like, on my end, I don't like clients fucking with my money, but at the same time, I don't want to fuck with their money. So if I'm telling them I'm going to do something, then I plan on doing that, And then I have another section which goes over the copyright and usage of my work. So this includes what rights I retain as the artist and what the client can and can't do with the work. And of course, my AI clause. My art is not to be used in any kind of machine learning platform, period. Like if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be fucking me and we're not there. I don't want to be there, And then my last section really is the deliverables. So this actually goes over everything that the client will receive at the end of a commission or throughout the commission process. So this includes initial drafts and mock-ups, finalized sketches, sneak peeks or notes during the coloring phase, and the final artwork in high resolution. And obviously, if it's a traditional piece, you get all of the above, plus you get the added bonus of a tangible or physical product. Something with real value, crafted by hand, packaged with care, and like legit shipped straight to your door. I do have that option available as well for digital, but a lot of people don't actually do it. And I do give my client the permission to take that image and print it out for themselves. They can't sell it or claim that they made it. But if they want to take care of that end and not have to wait for the mail to get to them, then that's on them. That's their fair use for it, But yeah. Like back when I first started, legit, this was my mistake. I messed up fucking royally, okay? I took on a client who wanted a totally different art style from what I normally did and offered. They wanted to be involved in every single step of the process. And like, oh my God, that whole fucking experience left a sour taste in my mouth that's never fully gone away, you know? If anything, it's fucking cemented. So after that, I started simple. Legit, I started with a basic list of what I will and won't do for commissions. It wasn't anything fancy. It was just fucking clear as boundaries. And one of those boundaries was not replicating somebody else's fucking art style. You know? That was one of my major boundaries. It was the first one on the list for a long time. And as I grew, especially when I started to build my own brand more seriously, I really started to look into how other artists and even retailers structure their TOS, their contracts, and their refund policies. I pulled pieces from what resonated with me, and I made sure to shape everything around my time, my values, and my energy. I even took a full week off of making art just to sit down and slowly build out these policies. Like, it took time. It took time and it took energy. But in the end, I think it's worth it, you know? And over time, I've come back to it and I've refined it over and over again and again. And now my terms include everything from the scope of the work that I will do, the client conduct that I expect, my, the usage rights, and even down to my work not being allowed to be used for AI modeling or training, you know? I've done work for family as well before. And like, so for this, like, I've never had an issue until this mural. And it's my mom, okay? Like, I went in hand in hand knowing that she is a hard bitch to fucking please. Like, that was not new information for me. But I honestly wanted to do just this one thing for her. I thought, hey, this will be meaningful and it'll create something beautiful for someone I care about. And instead of it being just that, it turned into a whole fucking ordeal that completely wiped out any fucking enthusiasm I had by the end of it, you know? Literally, by the second week, I was dreading going back. I wasn't excited anymore. I was tired, you know? I honestly just wanted to see the fucking piece finish so I didn't have to hear her complain anymore about the time that it's taking me or her saltiness about the fucking coyotes I left her. I just, yeah. And what's wild is, like, legit, she reminded me so much of that first client I took when I was younger. And like, literally, the one who nearly broke me when I first started, it's the same fucking gross vibe, that micromanaging shit, and that same emotional and mental exhaustion of explaining myself. Like, would I do this again for her? Honestly, no, I wouldn't. I love her, I really fucking do. And I really love the mural that I made for her. Like, oh my God, it turned out so fucking gorgeous. And I'm so proud of myself, you know? But all that bullshit I had to go through just to get it finished? Yeah, nah. Not worth it. I was so drained after. It literally took me 2 weeks just to recover mentally from that. So yeah. And like, I can laugh about it now. I've processed it enough to like joke with it. But I am still salty. And I won't even pretend that I'm not. Because like, yeah, even though it turned out beautiful and I'm proud of it, the experience was not worth it. And like to top it off, my sister asked me, was she a good client? And I was like, no, straight up, no. And then she goes, would you do another project for her? And again, I said no, right in front of my mom. She was sitting right there next to my sister. And she just went, wow, okay, I see how it is. And it's like, you can't see me but fucking shrug, That's just how it is. I love you, but as a client, nah, fuck that shit. Not again. And in the end, I'm honestly thankful because just like with regular clients, I've learned how to sort people into general groups. Like I've got folks I take commissions from in a heartbeat, even if my list is full or technically closed, because they're amazing clients. They get my process, they respect my pace and my updates. They give me artistic freedom, and best of all, no rush. Take your time. I'll wait, Then I've got my regulars, people whose characters and ideas I genuinely enjoy working on. They're organized. They come with clear references, specific vibes, and setting ideas. They make it easy for me to bring their vision to life. And yeah, there are a few hit or miss types, Sometimes the project flows, sometimes it's a grind, but it's manageable. And then there's the never agains. And now I know where certain people fall, even family. And with that, like I just said, even with family, I know exactly which family members would fall into each of these different categories. Yeah, my mom, she's pretty much a given, but I still took up the challenge. Thought maybe it'd be different, but it was not. But hey, it's officially confirmed though now, stamped, filed, and never again. But yeah, moseying along through though, like I mentioned earlier, I also wanted to chat a bit about why I chose to make all my own merch and products right here in my home studio. So, remember how I mentioned that my mom said I was artistically inclined? And how I said mixing paint is actually cathartic for me? Yeah, she wasn't wrong, and I wasn't either. I do tend to pick up different types of art quickly. Always have. I mean, you're listening to a 90s kid who was raised by her grandparents, hella sheltered, okay? I wasn't allowed to go to other people's houses unless my family personally knew theirs. So art? Yeah, art was my escape, my outlet. And in their eyes, it was something that could also keep me busy. And let's be honest again. So the arts have always been encouraged in my family, especially if you showed any sign of talent. They made sure that I had supplies, sketchbooks, music, space to experiment. Like, it was one of those few things that I had that was like really, truly mine. Like, they put me in ballet, tap dance, hip hop dance, like when I was younger. And then I picked up the piano, and I was already drawing by then too. And like, yeah, art has always just kind of been there for me. In high school, I took my first official art class. Sophomore year, I got into digital art, though that was more like photo manipulation and collage type of stuff, but whatever, it'll do. At least I learned those techniques, so it wasn't full on digital painting yet. Junior year, I switched things up and I took ceramics 1-2 and beginner choir instead of art 3-4 because I didn't like the teacher. Let's be honest there too. Then senior year, I stacked it up again with ceramics 3-4, intermediate choir, and fashion design. And on the side, especially since I was a raver at the time, I got super into making candy. And that hobby ended up helping me figure out jewelry making later down the road. And even how to eventually learn how to craft synthetic dreads from some of the techniques with that. So yeah, that's why she says I'm artistically inclined. That's the backstory, at least some of the backstory to it. Because, like, my skill set is a little bit way longer than that. But I mean, that pretty much gives you the gist, like, gets you caught up right away. But all of these things, though, through ballet, painting, jewelry making, even making like all of it. The one thing that they all have in common is that they're cathartic to me. I find real joy in understanding the materials I'm working with, learning their behavior, their limits, how they respond, and then figuring out how to pull my voice through all of that. It's about the process, my process and my style, And yeah, some of those skills come from hobbies like jewelry making. It's actually been a minute since I've done any beading or wire work. So I found a new way to bring it back.
All right, guys. So this is how we're looking. I was able to finish the clouds. I'm going to go in lastly with like the highlights and stuff, the pure highlights. And then I'll finish shading this tomorrow. I need to put on one more layer of this purpley blue and then add in the highlights and stuff for that, and then start working on the foreground and work my way up, and then I will talk about this part in my vlog when I get home. So yeah.
And that's why I started making bookmarks with handmade charms using gemstones, precious gems, glass beads, and little trinkets that I curate myself. I do have my limitations though. I mean, I'm literally just one person, There are things that I don't know how to do yet, or I just haven't had the time to dive in and do the research for. So sometimes even I've got to offload certain things to a manufacturer. Enamel pins are a good example. And maybe one day I'll offload some acrylic charms too. Same goes for my business cards too. I get those professionally printed out, and honestly, I really like how they turn out. The quality's solid, the quantity I get is worth the cost, and it honestly saves me time. So that's one thing that's gonna stay outsourced for sure. Everything else though, that's all me. Prints, stickers, buttons, magnets, bookmarks, originals, even down to the matting and framing of the originals. I handle it all myself right here in my studio. I mean, I even made a zine before, just once to sell in my shop for Inktober 2019. But it was a fully traditional book-bound zine with prints of my original ink paintings on professional grade matte paper. And I also made a sketchbook version using my own handmade paper. And the binding, it was a beautiful lacing technique that I stitched together by hand. Like every part of it, from the paper down to the binding, was crafted with intention by me, I don't know why, but being able to say that I actually made something by hand, it just makes it feel more special, at least to me. Like, if I found out an artist that I wanted to support is out there making their own items, I'd be squealing with excitement, like for real. There's just something beautiful about knowing that they took the time, energy, and the dedication to learn a new skill and expand their own craft, to make something tangible with their own two hands. And I guess for that, it's not necessarily just about the final product. It's the process, the care, and the intention behind all of it.
Okay, so technically we are almost done with this. Technically. I'm excited. Yes. But anyway, so we're pretty much towards the background part of this. So my idea is to work on this because this is the last panel for this scene. So I need to extend this orange over here, get that gradient in, get some clouds in as well, and then get the mountains in, at least get that all in. That's where I plan on ending, or would like to go past that. Technically I would like to get all the mountains in and the cactus in and stuff like that, especially since this is such a small little thing. Shouldn't take that long, but just in casey. So I'm okay with ending at the mountains for this part, and then I can come back to this tomorrow, add in the foreground and everything for this background scene, get the highlights in, and then I can finish up with the Muerto merch, the La Catrina mariachi here. And then after that's done, I can go ahead and start working on this panel. And this is supposed to be a night scene, so once I finish up all of this, I can start planning out the back mural that night when I finish, and come back the next day and start work. So yeah. Alright, we've seen the rest. But I'm catching this side up. Let's go. Guys. So my mom's salty because of how small the fucking coyotes are. Okay, like look. You have to get up close and personal to see them, Like, I thought it was a cute little idea. Because, like, that makes it more interactive when you get up close and personal with it. Like, you can see and appreciate even the small little details. My mom is salty though. That shit's fucking hilarious.
And like, it doesn't have to be perfect. Nobody's asking for perfection. At least I'm not. And I guess that's another thing, that it's not about flawless execution. It's about the fact that they wanted to do it, that it mattered enough to them to try to learn something new and pour themselves into it, That kind of dedication adds a layer of meaning that you don't just get from mass-produced stuff. And as an artist, that kind of dedication adds a new layer of meaning that you don't get from mass-produced stuff, And as an artist, knowing that someone sees that and values it hits differently. Anyways, that's pretty much it for today's vlog. Thank you guys so much for sticking around through the chaos, the story time, my little mini rant, and like a little sneak peek into why I do what I do. And whether you're an artist out there yourself or just someone who supports artists, you matter. This community means the world to me. If anything here resonated with you, or you've got your own mural horror story, let me know in the comments, or just drop in and say hi. I always love hearing from y'all, so yeah. Alrighty, take care of yourselves, stay hydrated, and I'll catch you in the next one.